You may or may not have heard, but apparently there's tons of crashing in-game today because of some ridiculous new gem store outfit bug thing. So I thought I'd talk to you guys about something a little different. Now, I've had this on my backlog for a while. There are a great many tools and developer third-party interesting things going on with the community I just haven't talked about, and they've slowly been piling up. And so I thought, hey, we've covered quite a few in the past. Let's cover another one. This one particularly is something I've really been looking forward to and am closely watching the development of, and I've been in contact with the guy making it. One of the little features that's a part of this app is actually something that I requested, and so I thought I'd share it with you guys so maybe you can get a bit more feedback and we can make the damn thing even better. So today, guys, I'm going to talk to you about Guild Wars 2 Launchbuddy.exe. Alright, so to get this is incredibly simple, okay, and that's really one of its strengths in my opinion. If it wasn't so simple, it probably wouldn't be worth the time. All you have to do is go to the top link in the description, and you can read about the tool there, or watch this video as I'll demonstrate, and click download. You run that exe from anywhere. You don't have to put it in the game directory, you don't have to do any special fiddling with it. It can be on your desktop, in your documents, in your downloads folder, whatever. You're just gonna get this here, this exe, and when you double click it, the program will be up. So, what does it do? Well, as the title would suggest, it's all about the way you launch Guild Wars 2. And you might think, hold on, WP, that's really weird. Why would I care about the way I launch Guild Wars 2? The way I currently launch Guild Wars 2 is perfectly normal and fine. The launcher that the devs provided for us has no problems. What possibly could this offer us? Well, as it turns out, actually quite a lot. And some of you will be familiar already with where those places are, but I guarantee a lot more people don't know. There are actually a lot more options than what you see when you're in-game and you press F11. Yes, we have all of these, and they're saved into what I believe is an XML file in your app data, by the way, which you can tweak. It gave you access to some of the more advanced versions of SMAA before it was actually released to the public, if you were keen enough at watching it. But in addition to these options we get here, you can also augment the game runs by adding little extensions to a shortcut for the game known as command line arguments, and there's a whole variety of them. Sometimes they get sneakily added in patches without the devs talking about them and people find them. Sometimes they're sneakily removed from patches without the devs talking about them, and some of them have been staples that have existed since the very launch. You have, for example, -BMP. If you were to use this, it changes the format, the screenshots you take in game, to one that produces a much larger file size but much better quality screenshot, and that's something people commonly use. Another one gives you a lot more information on your loading screens, but they're kind of fiddly, and compiling the list of them is kind of fiddly, and juggling shortcuts and things like that is kind of fiddly. Guild Wars 2 Launchbuddy gives you access to those command line arguments in an easy, well-defined, simple place to toggle them on and off, and I guarantee you a lot of them you will want to use at various times. I'll go through them in just a second. In addition to that, it does a lot of other useful things as well, including stuff like repairing your client, launching multiple copies of the game. We'll get in a discussion about that in just a second, understanding what build of the game you're on, whether you want to patch it, and a lot more. So let's jump in. Let's see what we're dealing with here. All right, so when you first launch it up, you'll see that I'm on Launchbuddy 105. The guy's currently developing version 2 and is looking for as much feedback as possible to incorporate lots of features in. So if you watch this video, if you start using it, if you like the sound of it, you can go to the second link in the description to drop as much feedback as you possibly can. So that's the version of Launchbuddy I'm running. It will also tell you the Guild Wars 2 client number. So my build as of this video is 68417. Christ knows how often that gets updated or how much they bump it up each patch that goes into the game. But that's kind of interesting because I don't think Arenanet really give you that detail very easily normally. But it will also tell you if you're up to date or not. Now, one of the biggest features, coolest features of Launchbuddy is when patches release, if there's a lot of demand, a lot of people hitting the servers, this will actually allow you to bypass some of that lag and latency and slowdown that can occur as a result of that. That's going to be really useful in, say, situations when new expansions release, or some of the massive patches like we've seen already. We've had a couple in 2016. People will be hammering a certain server. If you can't get through to it, you can use Launchbuddy and these command line arguments to actually define a different one. So we'll get to that in a second. But so next it's going to tell you what your start parameters are. These are your command line arguments. The most recent ones I used was -64, which means that the client was running in 64-bit mode. There is only one client of Guild Wars 2 now. There's not separate EXEs. It's just a 64-bit one unless it detects you're on a 32-bit operation operating system, at which point it will dynamically swap back. Launchbuddy allows you to decide if you want to do that, as well as a couple of other arguments that allow me to automatically log in, we'll get to in a second. It's got the install path of my game next, so that's really the only thing you have to do. You run the exe, and then you have to define this. So here you'll see I've got set directory. You want to click set directory, and you want to pick where your client is. So for me, I have a variety of different clients on a very fast SSD. I just made a new vanilla one for the purposes of showing this video off, so we can go in here, and you just define your exe. That's it. That's all you have to do, and now it will work. The rest is up to you on how you want to customize the launching of the game and the various new options that are available. So over here on the top right, you got this kind of intimidating looking button here, the Quaggan with the maintenance helmet on. It says fix client. You might think that's a warning suggesting that things are broken and not working as they should be, but that's not true. This is just one example of some of the utility you get from Launchbuddy. So it says Quaggan will fix your client for you. Choose what Quaggan can do for you. And it says, attention, this does modify delete files. So if you use this, you might lose your predefined in-game options that you've got set up, but generally these are all going to be pretty handy to you. So for example, cleaning your app data, that is what will do what I just mentioned. It will clear out what you've got saved as your various options. Refreshing your Launchbuddy setup will remove anything you've ever defined in Launchbuddy, which you're probably not going to care about too much. Clearing your bin folder. So at your installation directory, you've got bin. Bin is where when people use stuff like Reshade or ICM or various add-ons and things, you can tend to mess around a lot in the bin. And if you want to clean that up, generally, to be honest, all you have to do is delete it and launch the game and it will regenerate a new one for you. But if you don't like the sound of that, they've got a little cleaning the bin there for you. And then there's also a command line argument Arenanet offer called repair-repair. And what this is supposed to do is search your entire Guild Wars 2.dat file for inconsistencies and missing files and repairing it. So the way that Guild Wars 2 works, if I just show you my vanilla folder here, is the exe is what we're modifying here, but there's a dat, this Guild Wars 2.dat, and this is huge. As you can see here, it's 28 gig in size. I was looking at installing the game onto a RAM disk recently, and it's just completely out of my reach. You'd need so much RAM to be able to do something like that. But this is where all of the assets, all the textures, the models, everything is actually located. And when you're downloading new patches, you're like basically applying new data to this Guild Wars 2.dat. And over time, if you don't clean this up, there might develop inconsistencies and issues with it, which dash repair fixes. So if you're someone who's been playing since 2012, 2013, you installed Guild Wars 2 back then and you've not touched it since, you've just let it patch, you might find it's better to actually run a dash repair and see if you can fix it. Even better might be just deleting the Guild Wars 2 DAT altogether, but then you're going to have to download 28 gig worth of stuff. So be careful of that and make sure you do it overnight or something if that's really the route that you're going to be going for. So yeah, Launchbuddy allows you to fix that up. Basically just little client maintenance things. There's also finally down here patch game. This again is running another command line argument. Very simply, run Guild Wars 2, look for patches, apply any patches, but then not actually launch the game itself. It will just patch, that's it. And so yeah, like maintenance stuff here, I doubt that I'll really use much of this, but it's a nice section of the tool. And now we really get to some of the juicy stuff. We get to the arguments, all right? So these are all little checkboxes. As you can see, I can go down and I can turn every single one on. And you might think that's a really exciting idea. Oh my God, look at all these new options and things that I can play with. Turning them all on is probably a bad idea. Some of these are diagnostic, some of these are utility-based, some of these aren't things that you're really going to care about using. And what better example do I have than the first one, -32? What this means is it would force the game to run 32-bit, even though you might be on a 64-bit operating system. For those that don't really know what I'm talking about, essentially this just means you're gimping yourself out of space for the game and potentially causing yourself to have crashes in very big meta events if you turn this on. I honestly can't see a reason why you'd want to run the game to force it into 32-bit mode. Maybe for some legacy support of old add-ons or something, but really. Dash repair is just the same thing we saw over here in the fixed client section. -BMP, I already talked about. This is what forces the lossless screenshots in .bmp. Diag is something I think sometimes you might find NCSoft employees or Arenanet support asking you to do, so that it will print something out so they can see why you're having some kind of issue. This DirectX 9 single threaded will basically kill your performance, but if you run the game on Linux, if you're using Wine or something, then that can improve things. Similar to forward renderer, this can mess up shadows and stuff, but massively improve your frame rates, as it says there, even when running AMD cards, and so on. Obviously, I'm not going to go through every single single one of these. Maybe just some of the more interesting ones. This one here is actually huge, and I used to run all the time. Many people used to ask me about this on my videos. Map load info shows diagnostic information during map loads, including load percentages and elapsed time. So one of those things Guild Wars doesn't have, and it's quite famous if you run on a traditional hard drive, is very long loading screens, but no like loading bar that tells you how far you've got. Guild Wars 1 had such a thing, but not in Guild Wars 2, so you're just kind of sitting there looking at concept art. They don't even have like lore text on the screens or anything to have you spend your time on. Well, what map load info does is it adds kind of this ugly looking block of text down here in the bottom left corner, as you can see, which gives you all the information about what the client is actually doing. It will tell you if it's loading assets or if it's waiting to connect or what your problem actually is before you're finally getting off of the loading screen. So it gives you a slightly better indication and something to look at. A lot of the information it presents to you, it goes way over my head and I have no understanding of, but it's cool, right? It's one of those little things, hey, I can augment my game a bit. Now, I have seen espoused that using dash map load info will even slightly diminish your loading screen times. I've personally never experienced this. I have no idea why this would be true, but some people swear by it. And unless you think it breaks your immersion too much, I figure, hey, why not? This will be one of the ones that I actually use. Dash MCE is an annoying thing that used to run even on some of the Guild Wars 1 stuff that does something weird with Windows Media Center I wouldn't worry about. And then you get some other things. If you're really a hound for performance, if you are running on some ridiculously old rig, maybe you can disable music or you can disable the sound system completely, and that might improve your frames a little bit. You can disable your UI, but that's just the same thing as when you're doing it in-game. UI spanel monitors. If you're one of these people on the Eyefinity hype train or whatever, where you use all 3 monitors to play Guild Wars 2 on one of these really crazy aspect ratios, you can tick this and it will move your user interface across the whole thing instead of just centered in the middle. That was something they did a while ago. You guys remember about 2 years back they added the ability for us to move our FOV, and they improved the camera options and stuff. Well, if you want that vanilla experience again, that 2012 experience, you can turn on use old FOV and so on. So yeah, those are the arguments. This is really, to me, one of the bigger features. But now let's look at server selection. So as you can see here, we do have a section. You can hide it if you want. You can collapse or expand it. And this, again, is for people who have trouble when patches are coming out and you're getting 0 kilobytes a second or you're getting 1 kilobyte per second. You can maybe change the server that you're trying to hook into. So there are 2 servers you want to look at. First, you want to click check for servers, and it will poll a list and give you everything that's currently up and running. So there's 2 types. You've got authentication servers and you have asset servers. So the authentication server is what you log into that will verify, hey, you have a real account. This account has Heart of Thorns unlocked. You have entered the correct password. You are logging in from an IP that we already have registered with your 2-factor authentication, stuff like that. Okay, and so if you're having a problem where you can't even begin to connect, it's probably because the authentication server is being hammered, and you can pick a different one to connect to. Again, these are all options that Arenanet themselves have provided. It's just they're so fiddly to mess about with when you're doing it through the traditional method. And so you get to see where the server is, its location, its ping, and all that good stuff. The other type of server is once you've authenticated, you'll connect to an asset server, and the asset servers are as far as I understand, what are distributing all of those bits of information that are going to go into your Guild Wars 2.dat. This is what streams actual data to you, and this is where, you know, gigabytes of stuff will be coming in if an expansion's released or just some massive things come out. And so if you are connected and you are downloading, but you're downloading really slowly, like at 50 kbps, maybe you want to change your asset server instead. And I'm quite surprised that I can connect to Washington with a ping of just 9. But yeah, so you can swap that, and then maybe you'll get better speeds and you'll get in quicker. If you guys are thinking, oh, this is a lot to mess about with, it's not relevant to me, I would just point out, all you have to do is click to have them selected, and then you're done, and then you'll just connect to those forevermore. And it's really as simple as just turning off the patcher, hitting a new one, and then trying again, and within a couple of seconds you'll know whether you're getting the faster speeds. Particularly useful if you like to flip stuff on the trading post. We recently had a situation where everyone knew that destroyer loads were going to be worth loads, and everyone was rushing to log in very quickly. Well, maybe this gives you an edge over your friends, who knows. So that's server selection. The final thing that I'd like to show you guys is the auto login function. So auto login is actually really handy if you have a lot of accounts. What auto login will do is it will let you save a selection of all of your different accounts so that you can swap and change them as and when you please. So let me give you an example. Let's say one of our emails is laracroft@benedicthouse.com, okay? We have a crappy, very low security password, but this is an account that has Heart of Thorns, and it's our main account that we play on. So we can nickname it as main account, okay? And we can click add. But here's the thing, we also have Richard Croft at benedicthouse, okay, .com, and he has an equally bad password, which is just, you know, his first name and then the year he was born. But this account doesn't have Heart of Thorns, but we use it each day to get our login rewards. And then finally, maybe we have a final account, which is just sort of a free-to-play account that we made when we went to one of the Woodenpotatoes streams at some point. And it's a pain in the ass to remember when you have all of these different accounts. Oh, that's an invalid email, brilliant. It's a pain in the ass when you have all these accounts, and these lists can grow quite big. I myself have got 4 different ones. I got a free-to-play account, main one, a second one for 0 to hero, and then finally another one we were doing some little challenges on. When you have all this stuff, it can be really annoying to remember all of your email accounts and your passwords and so forth. I personally have a password database that saves all this stuff for me. But what you can do from Guild Wars 2 Launchbuddy is 2 things from here. Number 1, each day when you play the game, you can just select what client you want to use. So here, we're going to play our main account. Maybe we want a login reward from the account that has no Heart of Thorns. All you have to do is click the one that's highlighted, and forevermore, when you launch Guild Wars 2, there you go. It's saved, it will go through. The even better thing here, though, in my opinion, is the fact this includes multi-boxing. And this is one of the main sales of Guild Wars 2 Launchbuddy. Essentially, if we select all 3, and then we click to launch the game, it will throw up all 3 clients at once. You'll have a Guild Wars 2 window, and then a Guild Wars 2 window, and a Guild Wars 2 window, and each will already be logged in. No more defining of other things necessary. That's it. You are sorted. And this is really handy, especially for people who like to get a lot of login rewards, or people who, for whatever reason they might have, are actually running through multiple accounts. So we can do a bit of discussion on multi-boxing. Some of you guys might think, oh, is that cheating? Is that a bad idea? Is that not smart? It's actually totally fine. There's quite a rich history of multi-boxing in Guild Wars as a franchise. Remember, Arenanet have always been very clear. What they are against are scripts and things that play the game for you, or that simulate more than one key press when you're only pressing one. So all that Launchbuddy does is it closes a mutex, okay? So a mutex is, it stands for mutual exclusion. Basically, when you launch Guild Wars 2 normally, it will also create a mutex. That means if you try and launch Guild Wars 2 again, it will see the mutex and it will say, no, you can only have one of these running. What Launchbuddy does is it closes that mutex, so you can just run as many as you like. That's it. And that's accomplishable through a lot more methods than just here with Launchbuddy. What Arenanet don't like is the idea of people using stuff like auto hotkey and macros that simulate multiple key presses across multiple clients at once. That's where they're drawing a line, and Guild Wars 2 Buddy doesn't even begin to look into anything like that. So it's a lot of quality of life. It's sort of the equivalent of if Arenanet's regular patcher allowed you to have drop-down boxes, which of course they don't. And so yeah, you can run stuff as and when you like. That's about everything, really. There's one final thing to show off, and this is the Reshade Unlocker. This is actually the feature I requested a while back. If you run Reshade, you'll know that the guys developing Reshade, quite foolishly, in my opinion, have implemented some coding in there which disables its depth buffer features when it detects network activity, which is a load of crap that kills it for Guild Wars. So our community responded by making the Reshade Unlocker, and so Launchbuddy will work with that too. So if you run any number of these different things, this will work with ICM and everything out of the box. So I asked for that to be there. I'm very happy that they do. You just have to define the path of where the Reshade Unlocker is, and you're sorted. So there you go, that's Launchbuddy, guys. That's Launchbuddy. I wanted to talk about it. I've been using it for a while. I hope you guys enjoy. What I would say as well is, if you have any feedback on other things you'd like to see happen to this, do post in the thread that he's given, because it is unfortunate to see real talent and development happen for Guild Wars 2, and then sometimes it doesn't really take off. So for me, my feedback would probably be, I'd like to see this changed a little. Honestly, having your email on display like this, I don't think it's very smart. Since we can nickname stuff, I'd rather if this was obscured somehow. I do find it a security risk if people know the exact account that you log into the game with. We've heard of people contacting SMS carriers to get around two-factor authentication, all kinds of stuff like that, so it's sort of ridiculous. I'd also say I'd rather the password field show a fixed number of asterisks instead of the exact number of characters your password uses. As you can see here, Richard's password is a little bit stronger potentially than Lara's password. And the other thing I'd love to see is, I don't know, a checkbox that just for fun, or maybe a redefinition of the way this looks just for fun, that brings back the old Guild Wars 2 launcher from way back when. The devs have said they're not bringing it back because it's a bit of a security risk. I don't know though, I feel like you could easily do it through a bit of an overlay, put some sound on there, have it as an option because some people won't like it, but my god, if Guild Wars 2 Launchbuddy looked like that old login screen, I'd love it. In fact, let's end the video showing you guys a little bit of that. So enjoy everybody, that's Launchbuddy. I will talk about the current events and stuff going on tomorrow, so be there or be square. And thanks very much for watching all, hope you enjoyed, see you next time. About 2 episodes, we're going to be looking at the quests that were added to the Halloween event in 2010. So the last couple of episodes were 2000.